Hi everyone, it's Linda Canase with LyndaCreates. I'm so excited to share this card that I made, and I wanted to keep experimenting with ways to make cards using embroidery, and like I'm doing right now is embroidery on stamped fabric and then turning it into a card. So this was a project I took on with the idea also that the fabric that I used, this upholstery fabric, and actually both of these are upholstery fabric, and this is tulle. I kept mispronouncing it. It's tulle. It's really thin. It's like a netting, the thin netting. So I made this card. It included embroidery, stamping, and slow stitching. So I'm really excited about it, and just meditating as I stitched. It was really a lot of fun. As you can see, it's a card. And let me come in a little bit. I will show you how I made this. But this was using the layered shells and sentiments stamp that I designed for iCrafter. So that's where the shell came from, and the fabric was donated or gifted to me from an upholstery fabric store. It was from their sample books. So this is going to be my thank you card to them for sharing this fabric and letting me upcycle it so that it didn't go to the landfill. So let me go ahead and show you how I made this. I'm making this as a thank you card. So it needs to be rather small, and I decided what I'm going to do is my seashell. It's a stamp called Layered Shells and Sentiments that I designed for iCrafter, and I want to do this scallop shell, but I wanted to embroider it using layers of fabric, a little tulle. These are fabrics that I got. It's not a thrift haul, a free haul. It was from a sample book that someone gave me from a store. So it was upholstery fabric, and it was a lot of different variations, and I wanted to do this as a thank you to them for the sample book, but also using a lot of the fabrics that they gave me because they could not envision what I was planning to do with their fabrics. So this is going to be shades of light blue. The shells are going to be in this peachy, purpley kind of shades, and again I'm going to do this clamshell kind of look, and it's going to be small, it's going to be in layers, and we'll see how it goes. So these are the fabrics I'm going to be using. I wanted the background fabric to be tighter weave of a pale blue, and then this was obviously an upholstery fabric that had a very thick weave and a wide range of colors, so that's going to be like the highlight color. This I want to get a little bit of something fancier, which I don't usually use these types of fancier fabric, but this is going to be my test. And then this is the tighter weave that I'm going to stamp on. Now the other thing too is all of these fabrics, I'm not so sure about this one, but the other fabrics have a very loose weave that I can fray the edges. You can see here how it's starting to fray already. So I'm going to take advantage of that and do something a little distressed, but I did want to stamp on this fabric first to have a flat enough surface to take the ink. So let me go ahead and do that. Just to explain the stamp set, my thinking was similar to how they have stamps that have layers for flowers, the shade, and the highlights. So my shells, there's one, the larger area, which is the darkest, or actually would be the lightest color, the background color. You have a mid-range, which has a medium color, and then you'd have one that would have the highlights. Similar to this shell, the spiral shell, there's actually 4 layers, so you can do 4 different colors or shades of a color to add. So I'm going to work with the middle one because in this case it has most of the detail that I will need to stitch on. So I just want to show that if you're going to use this stamp for paper arts, you can line it up and do all the colors, and it creates a beautiful layer, shades of color. But for this is just giving us the background area of where I'm going to stitch. So I'm just using for the middle one. Now I'm stamping with the archival ink, and I just want to say this piece of fabric may look large for the area that I need. Again, this is going on a card, so it can be very small, but the fabric may look really big, but I need to put it into a hoop when I stitch, so I need to have enough fabric to put the tension on it. So that's something to consider when you're stamping on fabric. You need extra space. So I'm just going to go ahead and there's my shell. So these are going to be like my main colors. Some brighter highlights. I may not use that, not sure. And then I'm going to add a little bit of the dark muted purples in there. So these are going to be my shell colors. So first I'm going to lay the long lines to start. And I am going to do, since there are so many lines, and I don't know, I'm going to do every other line with the vertical. I'm starting with the lightest color, which is DMC 950. Okay, so once you finish that, we're going to start same color. We can come across and we're going to come up on this. Okay, I'm showing it a little closer so you could see. I'm coming up with the new color on the inside of that first line. I'm going to bring it behind the next two vertical lines. And what it's going to do is wrap that first vertical line, and then I'm going through the underneath the next two lines. And this is, I'm using 6 strands of each color. This is number DMC 3779, and I'm also working it as I go. I'm pushing it down so it tucks in underneath. I'm just going to keep doing this as I go around with each new color until I get to these wider areas, and then I will show you what I'm going to do when it gets too far apart. So let me show you where I'm at the moment. I've done 2 rows of the beige pink, 2 rows of the light peach, and 3 rows of the medium peach color or the darker peach color. So at this point, what I'm going to do is now add more of these vertical lines to fill in these parts, just to give it more thickness as we go. But I'm tucking it under a little bit under this, the last wrapped stitch. So I'm just going to add more lines. So I added the vertical lines, and now I came back to the right hand side, and since I still have floss, this gray pink color, I'm going to do another row across, and now I'm going to do, obviously it's going to include that next, the extra lines, vertical lines, so it'll look fuller as I go. So I did some more colors, but a couple things I wanted to point out that I've learned in these stitches is that one, as you work, you want to, let me pull this through, you want to push the floss down to keep it nice and tight. That's one thing. The second thing is that I noticed that it generally, looking at photos of seashells, it's generally stripes. So I'm going to add the lighter peach color 3779 in between some of the stronger colors, just to create that striped pattern. So it's just a couple little pointers that I realized as I've been working. So I thought I'd jump in here and point that out. So I wanted to share this time 2 other things that I've found as solutions. One, because I'm going to use the lighter peach color in between the rows, the lines, I'm parking it off to the side, and I pulled out a second needle to do the next color, which is this soft mauve color, 316. And the other thing I changed over to tapestry needles. The difference being the tapestry needles have a very blunt end or tip to it, so it won't catch on the different strands, and it's just easier to do something like this, that I'm not piercing through fabric, I'm literally weaving it around, so you can work with the blunt end. This is a size 22 tapestry needle, so those are the 2 things that I've changed, and I'm just going to keep stitching along. It is definitely easier with this tapestry needle. So I finished my first row of the light mauve, but as you can see, it's getting very short here, and I still have a long way to go there. So what I'm doing is I'm starting a second row of the mauve color, but I'm coming in 3 stitches. I'm leaving 3 stitches blank on the right hand side, and on this row I'm just going to start there, and I'm not doing a light color break in between because this is a filler row. I'm going to call these filler rows to make it look thicker. And the main thing to remember too is when you get to the other end, to leave 3 blank ones. So whatever you leave blank on this side, leave blank on the other side too, or don't stitch the same number of verticals. Okay, so I'm at the end of it. I'm leaving 3 blank ones here, so I'm just going to stop right there. So it's a little bit thicker in the middle there, and I will just knot that off, and I'm going to bring it up here, and then I'm going to come back basically what you can do is go back in the same hole where you parked your floss and go ahead and come up again. And I'm going to do another row of the lighter pink. So I did one row of the light peach across, and now I'm skipping 5 stitches on the right hand side, and I'm coming back with the light peach just in the middle here to thicken it up. So again, I'm skipping 5 stitches on the right hand side, and I'll skip 5 on the left hand side as well when I get there. Okay, so this one, just come down. It's just making a tighter stitch across the top. And then I'll come back with this light lavender or mauve again. I'm on the last row, and I'm ending it on the grayish pink color that I started with down here. So I'm just going to do a few pieces on the edge there, and then I will work on the base of it. I'm sure there's a technical name for that part of the shell, but you can see how the colors. Okay, so I have 5, starting in 5 5 verticals on the right that I'm leaving blank. Now, one of the things I did over here, there was a lot more of the verticals showing than on this side. So on one of the colors, I think it's this darker peach color, I did 2 wraps on it to finish off or to fill it up a little bit more. So I should be doing this one, and normally I would bring it up over here, but because I want to fill in this space a little bit, I'm going to stay on the same one. Make sure it wraps nicely. Then I'm going to do a second one, just to make sure it fills up. And you really only have to do that for 1 or 2 vertical lines, just wherever you think it needs it. When you get to this stage, I might do one more over here. So I did 2 wraps on these 2. This one I may need an extra wrap. It's just that the vertical stitch was longer than the others. So I'm doing 2 on this one also. I think this one could do with 2 wraps. And this one too. I think I could go back to 1 wrap. And I'm just going to do 1 more and end it. So there's the main part of the shell. I'm going to work on the base of the shell, and I've switched back to an embroidery needle because it needs to pierce the fabric. And I'm using the lighter peach color 3779. And I'm going to do a satin stitch. So the stitching part of the shell is done. Now I'm going to add it onto the other fabrics to make the card. Here's a little trick for the stitchers who want to make a card. This is a standard 8.5 by 11 size. It's a heavier cardstock. It's 216 GSM, grams per square meter. So it's just the weight of the paper. So it's a heavier cardstock. So to make the card size, I'm going to do an A6 size, which is 4.5 by 6.25 folded. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to put a crease line down at 5.5. Okay, so this is just a scoreboard, and I'm going to fold my cardstock in half. Okay. And that's all I'm going to use that for. It just gives you a very straight fold. And so that is for to make the main part of the card. And I know it's bigger. And I just use a burnisher. This is double-sided burnisher. You want to have a flat side to do that crease really well. And then the next thing is to cut it down to size. I always like to crease it first before I cut it. So now, just to let you know, you can buy pre-made blank cards, so you don't have to go through all of this. So take 4.5 by 6.25. And this way. That's for all the stitchers, because a card maker, this is very normal for them. So just wanted to show for the stitchers. So now what we'll do, pop that out of the hoop. We have our card. What we're going to do now is, with the little bits of fabric, we're going to start deciding the size. Now, this is going to be the main background. I'm going to cut that straighter. What I'm going to do is, I want to have ravelly edges, so I'm not cutting this perfectly straight. I am going to cut it with the scissor and then make it a little rougher. That's kind of the edge that I want to get. So I'm going to right now do two sides. Okay. So let's see, let's measure this. So this will be the main part of it. Let's say it's 3.25 by 5.25, roughly. There's the first part. So that'll go down there. Then I want some of this blue, and I want it to go a little bit off-centered. I'm going to have that. I'm going to have a little bit of this on there as well. And I'm going to have a little bit of the tulle, because it's very transparent and frothy, so it looks kind of like an ocean coming through. But I need to cut these edges a little straighter. I'm going to work on the blue part next. I'm going to have that, and put this, probably something like that. I'm going to do this edge a little bit more, and then I'll decide there. And then we still have this to put on. We can't forget this part. Again, you want it to be a nice, a little more random looking than structured. So, and that will go someplace to add a little class to it. And now, and I'm going to allow it to have some ragged edges as well, but I do want it to be fairly square. So I'm going to cut this at roughly a 3-inch square, because I'm going to fray the edges, so it'll be definitely smaller than 3 inches. So now I have that. This. Now, I will still fray the edges, but let me get a little bit of this. What I want to do is crunch it up a little bit. So if you stretch it, which is kind of interesting, it gets more of a wave to it. Maybe up closer. Something like that. Like so down here. So it's like on both sides there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to roughen up the edges on this fabric and the light blue in back. It's actually quite therapeutic to do this. So now I'm going to do the rougher edge over there. That's going to be a little more centered. Up the edges a little bit more. So this will go like that. And now I have my toile that I'm going to bunch up. And this is going to go there, and this was going to go here, and then this was going to go on top of that. So that is the main part of what. So now what I want to do is I'm going to stitch everything together before I put it on the front of the card. I tried the lighter shade of peach and the lighter shade of blue at 3 strands each. It was so faint that it didn't seem worth stitching, so I decided I'm coming back with the light peach color that I used here, and I'm going to use that to go around, and I'm using 6 strands, and the reason is that this is a stitched piece. I want the stitching to show. So even if it's just going around the edge, it's part of the art. So I thought, let's do 6 strands. But now, this also means that the stitches will show up a lot clearer. So I want to make sure my stitching is nice and even. So I'm going to take my time. I'm not going to rush through this. But this is probably the most relaxing part of it. I'm going to do that stitch, and then I'm going to try to come up in between, right there, so I can have enough space to tie a knot without it showing in back. So I'm going to come up again, maybe trying to catch a little of this tulle. there's the first part of it. So now what I have to do is go back under and tie my knot. So there's the first layer. I'm going to go in. I'm going to do some more stitching because I want to bring in some other colors into the stitching. So I think I'll do some light blue on this part. Okay, so I'm going to start with the blue. As I go back this direction, I'm also grabbing some of the tulle. Okay. Now that just added a texture around the sides. So I'm just going to stitch this thicker upholstery fabric. I'm going to stitch that across. That is my seashell card. Okay, so for the stitchers out there who aren't familiar with double stick tape, it is, or this is foam back double stick tape. So there's a bit foam and it comes on a roll usually, and it is sticky on one side with paper tape on the other, and you remove it. And when you use the foam one, it has some added dimension. There's the card. I hope you enjoyed that. Please check out my website. It's LyndaCreates, Lynda with a Y, L-Y-N-D-A, LyndaCreates.com for more projects and inspiration. And please subscribe and like my YouTube channel and hit that bell for notifications. I upload a new video every Sunday morning. So this is just, again, a card that you can make using some simple embroidery and layers of fabric, and it makes a fun card for all you card makers. And this other fun part is that the shell was stamped, so you don't even have to draw anything. And this is the layered shells and sentiments stamp that I designed for iCrafter. And there's the shell using the different colors. You can see that. So I hope you like that. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.